Before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. Have a question for our guest? Send it to us via Messenger.
Here's your host, George Davis.
Welcome back to another edition of Before Nashville, where we introduce the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today. Tonight, joining me is a guy from California. Yeah, he flew out here and his arms are tired, of course. Yeah, oh, joke. Hate that one. But he's got we got a lot to talk about. I mean, I'm kind of interested in how he got to where he's at. His name is Chris Canyon. He grew up in the high desert of Hesperia, California. Chris, welcome to Before Nashville.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad to have you on. So I've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of the folks that I'm pretty sure that you are aware of from California. Dave Herrera, let's see, Lane Lanero, Kylie Trout, a lot of out there. So
there's a lot of great talent in California here, man.
There is, and it's unbelievable because people don't realize that. They think it all comes out of Nashville, and I got bad news for you. It doesn't. So it comes out by way of Nashville, but it doesn't come out of Nashville. How's that?
No, absolutely. And I think it's been a little bit of a thing in many regards, but then you have lots of John Party's from California, Tyler Rich is from California. We have a lot of good country coming out of California.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about Chris Canyon. How'd you get started into music?
So originally I got started into music. So my grandfather was a luthier, so he built guitars and violins. And when I was growing up as a little kid, I used to sit in the garage with him. He was building guitars and, be playing music. And I grew up listening to like James Taylor and Jim Croce and Bob Dylan and, so much amazing music.
Right.
And that kind of started my itch for music, and I pursued it through that. And songwriting for me, I always tell people, I'm a songwriter who plays guitar and sings. Is the way I like to put it, because I've always had a passion for songwriting, for the spoken word, and the power of lyricism.
Right. And songwriting, I mean, anymore, it's got to be more of a I guess, to the forefront craft than just being an artist, it seems like, because a lot of people want to get into songwriting, but they don't want the grind of being an artist so much.
Yeah. And, I think it's in a lot of ways, the way I've understood is the other way around. Some of the best artists I know started as songwriters. So it's kind of interesting that, people just think that songwriting is the end all and say all. And, the way I've always looked at it is, a good song tells a story. A good song is what leads people into the artistry, and the artistry is what brings life to the songs that you write.
Right, right. How old were you when you wrote your first song?
I can't say it was a very good song, but I was probably 10 years old, 10 years old.
Did you sing it around the house a lot?
Oh, yeah. I drove my grandpa crazy, man. I remember when I was first even learning how to play the guitar, it was I remember I was learning how to play Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, and I played the same thing over and over again, probably 5,000 times, drove him absolutely crazy. But that's part of it, and it's from those things that you continue to grow and you continue to, hone in on the craft, I guess. And it's really storytelling in a lot of ways of how can I effectively convey this idea, convey this message that I have to people that are wanting to listen to what I have to do.
Right. I think that's one of the magics of music in general, but especially country music, is the fact that it is such a story. I mean, it's like, all country music tells a story, and that's why it connects with people so much more so than any other genre.
Absolutely. 100%. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, floating around on this rock through the universe, and we're all linked in very special ways. And we've all experienced loss, we've all experienced heartache, we've all experienced joy, we've all experienced love, all of these things. And I think the thing that's really special, at least for me, that kind of brought me to country music was the fact that it touched on all of those things, and that there's a country song for everything that I've been through in my life, if
Right.
that makes sense. You know, and you hear a song and it takes you back to that place, to that moment, to that time, or whatever you were.
Right. And that's one of the things that a lot of people say makes a great country
And I
song.
think the thing that I really love about country music too is there's different aspects to country music. You know, there's the like really poppy country music. You got like more rock country music. You got so many different subgenres of country music where I think no matter who you are, where you're from in life, like you can find a niche and you can find a place in this beautiful genre we're in.
Right. There's something for everybody. So that always makes it good. Um, so you have, I mean, you've kind of got a what's been called a DIY work ethic. What exactly does that mean? I think I just lost him. There he is. We'll get him back on here. Hang on. Let
Yeah,
me.
I think I had a little bit of an issue there. Are we back?
Yeah, we're back. We're back.
So what was the I saw I'm sorry, I missed the last thing you said
All
there.
right. I was asking the question of you've been said to have had a DIY work ethic. What exactly does that mean?
Do it yourself. You know, you can't rely on other people. I think you know, initially when I first had my exposure to like the music industry, there's this like this perceived notion and this like predication that if you meet the right person or if you do this or if you do that, you know, it's good. You know, input X, you're gonna get, you know, whatever result. And
Right.
the thing for me that I've realized is, and especially like, because I'm a registered nurse outside of playing country music.
Okay.
Um, and for me, I think the thing that I've really realized a lot is the more I try to have an expectation of music, the less outcome I got. When I did music and country music for the love of doing it because it was intrinsic to who I was as a person,
Right.
I've gained way more from doing that. And you know, music is a part of who I am, whether anything happened with it or not. I'm gonna be sitting around playing my guitar, writing songs, no matter what. And so the more I hang on to that, it seems the more success I've had. And that's really the do it yourself, you know, like you have to
Right.
believe in yourself. And as a brand too, you know, you have to believe in your brand. You have to believe in what you're doing in order to inspire other people to believe in what you're doing. If you don't think that there's value in what you're doing or you don't believe in what you're doing, like if you don't believe in it yourself, how can you expect somebody else to believe in it? And
Right.
the more I believed in myself, the more I've gotten back. And you know, the most amazing thing in my life with music especially is I've gone back so much more than I've ever put in.
Hmm. So, are you with that DIY work ethic that you have? Is that kind of along the same lines of writing? It's like you're always going to have a hand in every song that you. Well, let me say recording. You're always going to have a hand in writing every song you record.
Yeah, I mean, as far as where I am now, I really believe that in a lot of regards, and as a songwriter mainly, and also too, it's like knowing what your niche is. You know, like there's some people who are like more guitar players than they are songwriters. Some people are more singers than they are songwriters. But for me, at least, like first and foremost, I'm a songwriter. And in that regard, I think in order to do songwriting to be a part of that, I have to have a hand in all of my music. I think, I mean, and even some of the like greatest artists you hear, you know, like Cody Johnson on this double album he just released is amazing.
Yeah.
And Cody Johnson is a phenomenal songwriter. Um, but there's also a lot of good hands that came into songwriting. And at least for me, like most of the stuff that I've written, I write on my own. But there are songs that I have written with other people. And
Right.
I think there's a different dynamic that you can get to certain things with with writing with others. But for a lot of the stuff that I do myself, you know, like it's an emotion, it's a thing, it's like a personal experience, and you
Right.
can't capture a personal experience by just cutting other people's songs.
Very true. Very true. Who are some of your influences as far as just the music industry itself goes?
Um, I mean, currently in the music industry, I'd have to say a guy I've really been following for a very long time now, Kip Moore. I love
Mhm.
Kip Moore. One of the reasons I love Kip is not only his songwriting, but he's kind of been a little bit anti-country, I guess you could say, in certain ways. You know, like Kip doesn't get tons of radio play. He doesn't get,
Right.
all the love that he probably deserves, in my opinion. But he's developed a wonderful fan base and can tour around, play, and do what he loves and push the envelope in his own regard. I think that there's something to be said about that. And also too, like I know in life from my personal experience as a nurse through the pandemic, and everything that we experienced, the last year and a half, like
Right.
life is quick, man.
Right.
And the thing I ask myself is, like, is it better be doing something for others, or to be better to be doing something that you believe in yourself that could then benefit others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point too. So, other are there other songwriters that you tend to look up to beside Kip?
Yeah, like Jason Isbell, Laurie McKenna. I mean, there's so many. I think the defining factor for me, like when I listen to songs, especially, I listen to the lyricism, and I listen to the message that's being conveyed. I listen to what they're saying and the way that they're saying it. And I mean, there's literally hundreds of like big time Nashville songwriters. But of mine, CJ Solar. CJ Solar's written a lot of really great songs for like Morgan Wallen's written with a lot of good guys. And yeah, just drawing inspiration from, others who have kind of paved the path before us, and seeing how they can authentically like convey their life experience in a unique way that I can draw from. And I mean, I learn constantly. Every song I hear that comes out, I'm learning from it. I listen to it, and it benefits me in some kind of way because I have the ear for it.
Right. Now, it's funny, and I won't say funny because I get this a lot, but mentioning CJ, it's interesting how much like this side of music and your side of music kind of overlap because CJ is a good friend of mine. I've known CJ for
Oh, cool. Yeah.
years, and so it's like to hear people that mention his name or mention because I was reading here in your bio earlier another buddy of mine that you actually opened for that we'll talk about here in a minute, but or have played with and toured with. I think did it say you toured with and um, opened for, and but I mean it's just the music industry in and of itself as country music. This is one of the things I kind of talk about a lot is how it is such um, there's such a hemisphere inside, Earth that is country music because
Yeah.
so many people know so many people that are the same, and it's really cool when I come across somebody that knows somebody that I have known for years or something like that. I think that's really cool, and to look up to them. I'm not a songwriter. I like CJ as a guy. I like his writing. I love his songs. But I can't say that he's an inspiration as far as a songwriter goes because I'm not a songwriter. You know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand that. And the thing for me with CJ especially is like he just came to the branding iron. We hung out with him, me and my buddy Eric.
Mhm.
And CJ does jujitsu, and I did Brazilian jiu-jitsu and like kickboxing and mixed martial arts for a lot of years. And so we kind of had like a couple things in common that way. And the thing with him especially is he just kind of sticks to his guns, man, and does what he does because again, he loves doing it, and he does it for the love of doing it rather than having I think.
I think we froze up there for a second. There you are. Can you hear me okay? Oh, we lost him again. Kind of having some issues back and forth, but we're going to keep on. We'll just stay on here until Chris comes back because we got some of his music we're going to be playing for you here and stuff. And there he is. We're back.
I don't know what's going on, man. I'm sorry.
It's probably the storms that are coming through here. They tend to wreak havoc, even though it's I don't know. It's just kind of odd.
I've gotten like a refresh thing on my screen a couple times, so I apologize if it's anything on my end.
Oh, that's it happens. But so tell me about the music scene in California. Like I was saying earlier, I've interviewed a lot of artists from California, and you wouldn't think that country music would be as big as it is apparently out there. But there's a lot of artists that are coming out of California now.
No, there really isn't. I mean, I think Jason Aldean put it pretty well, man. Country's countrywide, Um, and for me, I tend to tack myself onto what we kind of call, like, affectionately here in like Southern California, at least, as a brand of California country,
Hmm.
where it's a little bit rock, it's a little bit reggae, it's a little bit, beachy, it's a little bit all of the things that encompass what it was for me growing up as a kid from California.
Right,
And I mean, I've listened in my life from everything from like Tchaikovsky to Tupac,
right,
you know? And
right,
with that, there's a broad expansion of music, of different eras and things like that. And it's a thing. California country's the thing. I mean, you have like the artists who've broken through in the mainstream. Like John Party's a great example of that. I think John Party in a lot of ways doesn't get a lot of the accolade that he probably deserves. Same Tyler Rich. Tyler Rich is great. He's up from the Bay Area.
right,
And then here in Southern California, like a lot of the artists that I mean, really were kind of like influential for me when I was playing. Like I remember when, I mean, I've been hanging with Tyler Rich since Tyler Rich was posting videos on YouTube way
right.
back in the day. And like Kalish Ryder, like Boots on Stage in Southern California, did a lot of really good stuff for us here in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
Golden West is in Nashville now. Kalish Ryder, Lindsay L. I mean, Melissa Farrier. I mean, there's so many people that I've interacted with here at like Dean Calagris and the Southern California music scene.
Mhm.
Like Redneck Rodeo. There's so many people like out here in California. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
Um, and at least for me, like I never really felt the call to Nashville.
Okay.
And that's not to say that like I don't love Nashville. I've been in Nashville. I played in Nashville. Like Alec McElroy, he's out there. I was just hanging out with him in Boston. I was in Boston, playing some shows out there this last month. And that was a
Okay.
good time. And yeah, but it's just this like interconnectivity of artists and styles and things. And I think the thing like more so for me than anything is I believe in surrounding yourself with good people.
Right.
At the end of the day, like, you could be this, you could be that, you could be anything, but if you make a point to surround yourself with good people who have good values, what more is there? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think a little bit of nursing like kind of ties into that, just because I've seen the fragility of life in a lot of ways that I kind of live for to I like I say I like to say that I live it for today,
Right.
because I understand that nothing's promised. And so with that, I try to constantly surround myself with people who are of a good mindset, who are good people, and who support each other. Like
Yeah.
the big mentality, and especially with this record deal that I just got with Native South Records, is rising tides lift all sails. Like how
Right.
can we work together to benefit one another in the most productive way?
Right. So
And
here,
that's what California country is for me, at least.
I apologize for cutting you off there. Just a question popped into my mind there when you were talking about the record deal that you just signed with Native South. I think the cool part of that is, and this is a question it's kind of one of those questions that you know the answer to, but you still want to ask it. Is when you got that record deal, what was the first thing that popped into your mind?
I think the first thing that popped into my mind was an affirmation of what I've been working on for a long time. And the thing that's really cool about Native South is a record label that is headed by Jonathan Smith. Jonathan Smith is a former member of the band Luna Halo. Any Nashville people will know who the band Luna Halo is. You know, they've had cuts with Taylor Swift, with lots of really big artists.
Right.
And it's the independence of it, because as an independent artist, I valued independence. And independence in the fact that, like, country music at its core is country music. But at the end of the day, like, people have to understand that the music business is business.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way around it. I'm a brand just like any other country artist is a brand. You know, we're a product that has to be marketed, that has to be developed into a certain sphere and pushed in that direction. And that's what was great about Native South, was they gave me the ability to have the independence to where I can seek my own creativity, I can seek my own artistry, and develop that within the domain of a distribution network,
Right.
of a label, of the other things that come with that, without the heavy-handed aspect of it. I don't really know how else to put it.
Right.
You know, like a lot of guys, I mean, like, even for instance, I'm not trying to like put him on blast here, but like Tyler Rich, for instance, Tyler's a freaking amazing songwriter. He's got a lot of songs that haven't seen terrestrial radio, and probably won't, because he has the overarching arm of like Big Machine Label Group,
Right.
and all the people that are affiliated with that say, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do, here's what we think is going to be marketable, here's what we think is not going to be marketable. And it kind of detracts from what it means to be a songwriter, to focus on the song and the craft and all of that. And that's what I liked about Native South, was they give me the ability to be who I am within the sphere of the like bigger thing, if that makes sense.
Right. Right. Well, that's kind of, you know, one of the when I was first even thinking about the podcast, that was the whole thing. I mean, I'm all about independent artists. I want them to succeed. And when you get some of those bigger labels in play, you know, they want to change this, they want to change that, they want you to wear something specific. They don't want you to,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, like I was reading a story the other day, one of the most foolish examples of an artist being asked to not wear something was when George Strait signed with MCA. They said, you need to lose the cowboy hat.
Yeah, and the cowboy hat was not
Yeah.
only signature to who he was as a person, but to his brand. And I think that's the biggest misconception that patrons, I guess you could say, of country music have, is they don't give enough credence to the fact that it's a business.
Right.
And at the end of the day, what does a business look for? And especially in the music business and with big labels and things like that, they're looking, how many streams do you get? How many likes do you get per picture? How many of this, you know, because it's all qualitative that becomes quantitative from their ledger board. And I mean, I think I was like seeing a thing that like Bobby Bones, like you know, his podcast and his music thing that he does in Nashville, was even saying like number one songs are trades between record labels, of saying, hey, we're going to give you this song number one for X amount of weeks, and in return we're going to get, you know, a number one song for X amount of weeks. And I think it's really just a shift in the dynamic of what music is today. You know, like,
Right.
music before used to be, you know, you'd purchase CDs, things like that. And as an artist now, most of the revenue that you generate from being an artist is from touring, from playing shows, from doing things like that. And at the end of the day, like, it, you know, it's a profit and loss for any businessman, and they have to like make sense of what it is. And at least for me, like, I've been lucky enough that, you know, I have a profession outside of music. A lot of my friends, especially with the pandemic and everything that happened, in a lot of ways, like, fell out of music, who were phenomenal talents.
Right.
And that's why, like, I encourage people all the time, like, if you like an artist, if you support somebody, like, support them, like, pay that $1.29 on iTunes for them. Like, yeah, maybe they're only getting like 20 or 30 cents of it, but like you're giving them the opportunity to continue doing what they love, which then translates to the music that you love.
Right, exactly, and that's always a big thing. I mean, it's like you said, and I think that it's, and I remember seeing the TikTok or whatever it was that Bobby Bones did, where he talked about the labels trading number ones like baseball cards, and
Mm-hmm.
admitting that he had used his own, I guess, place in the country music realm to be able to do that as well, at times. Because I mean, you do get in that influential position to where you can help somebody.
Absolutely. And it's
Yeah,
not a knock on it's not a
and-
knock on them in any regard.
oh,
Like at the end of the day, like they have a business around, they have,
right,
like just like everyone else is trying to put food on the table for the family at the end of the day, like they're doing the same exact thing, man.
right, and I mean, I've worked with artists and talked to artists, and that's a lot of the things that they say. It's like, especially the independents. The bad thing about, when an independent goes up against a big label, it's kind of like putting the it's kind of like putting the Bad News Bears up against right now the LA Dodgers. I mean, it's a little bit weighted one way.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
And that's not so fair. But the thing is that with independent artists, they can come up. I mean, they can rise above, and some of them want that major deal. Some of them don't. Some of them are just happy being who they are and having that, that little bit of control. Feel like they control their own life, where sometimes with a big label, it may not feel that they control it as much as the label does.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
So,
that's really that's really that's really a big thing, man. And that's why I feel like, at least for myself, I found a sweet spot with Native South, and with that, and with the fact that John's a good friend of mine, um, and he allows me to just kind of do what I want to do,
right,
and I mean, to some degree there is the oversight of like you can't just do whatever you want, but that's not from like a malicious place. It's from the like best interest of everyone associated with the label.
right.
And I mean, like, there's a lot of great people on the label now. We have like Art Mulcahy, Casey Parnell, Dalmas Band, which is like in the UK. They're killing it over in the UK right now. They're a rock band.
Hmm.
Um, and again, too, the mentality of Native South that really attracted to me to it, and especially when I started working with them, was the mentality of rising tides lift all sails. How
Right.
can we all work together to create an environment that benefits everyone, to where we can all grow together?
Absolutely. And with that, once you sign with them, then you released your debut single. Um,
Yep.
and I listened to a lot of your stuff, and I got to be honest, I didn't realize that was the debut, but I guess it was a debut on the record label.
On the record label, yeah. So we had a little bit of a transition. So my last name is Gagnon,
Hmm.
Gagnon, Gagnon.
Okay.
It's French. It's like canyon, but Gagnon. And the joke always was it's like, how do you say my last name? Well, it's like canyon, but with a G. And so when we signed the record deal and we did market research and things like that, we found that Canyon was a lot more relatable, and we had much better hits with it. And again, that comes back to the business aspect of it, is how can you be most successful in the business of the country music? And I also like I think the big thing for me that like kind of tailored me onto it was it kind of dissociates me a little bit, in a sense, from the fact that like who I am individually versus who I am as an artist, as this product, as this market that is being sent into the mainstream.
Right.
And it's
Right.
been great. It's been great to be able to keep, the fan base and everything that I've had, from that, from when I did like America's Got Talent, from when I did The Voice, from when I had, radio play on 95.1 or
Mhm.
100.7 out here in California, to the project that we're doing now. And Forget Me is, our first release on it, and we're working on an album that we're going to be putting out hopefully sooner than later here.
Okay. And now you brought up I thought this was interesting because KLOS, for those that don't know, is a rock station, classic rock station in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And was it the country music that they put on the air? Do you kind of have an
Yeah,
old feel?
so it was a country rock song that we did on my first EP that I put out called What I Do. And again, California country
Right,
is not necessarily like, I mean, and it also depends, I guess, on like how you define country,
right,
because certain people will define country music in a certain way, other people will define it another way. And at least for us out here in California, and for myself in particular, like I consider myself like a little bit of like rock country.
right.
And What I Do was a song that we put out that one of their playlisters had reached out to me and was like, "Hey, this is like a really cool song. Um, how do you feel about it being, put out through our rock station?" And I was like, "It sounds great. Like, one, opportunity, and two, it just kind of fit, a little more of it." And it was really interesting too, because after we had like our airplay, I had a lot of people that had like connected with me via like social media, via email, via the website or whatever, that were like, I kind of turned them on to country.
Right.
Like they were like rock fans that were like, "Hey, I like what this guy's doing," and started listening to country music because of that.
Okay.
So it was kind of like it went both ways. It was really cool.
Right. When I first saw that, I mean, I work in radio as my day job, and so I've been in it for longer than I care to talk about, more than half my life, to be honest with you.
That's
And
amazing.
so, I mean, I've followed so many of these stations, and so a lot of the big call letters that come up like KLOS, and I'm going, wow, I know they were classic. I mean, I know they were a rock station, classic rock. I don't think they don't really do the current rock. It's more classic rock, from what I've read over the years. But one of the most phenomenal rock stations in the country. I mean, and I was like, wow, how did he? How did that come about? So I had to ask that question.
Yeah, and it's because like you can look it up. I think it's still under Ganyan on the release, but if you go to like Apple Music or iTunes, you could look it up What I Do, and you'll see like why it was a good, playlist for 95 KLOS.
Right.
And
Cool.
yeah, and it was cool. It was a song I wrote about like it's what I do,
Right.
life is what I do, and this, like the chorus was like, "Well, I'm on the front side again."
I think we had another refresh there. Did we kick out again? See if he can get back in
You
here.
hear me?
There
There we
you
go.
are.
I don't know what happens, man.
Yeah.
Um, all that to say, it was a country song within the confines of like a little bit of a rock feel, and that was a really cool song that we did.
That's pretty awesome though to I guess cross over, between the genres that way. Um and to have it, I mean, I know. And then um before we go any more, because I still want to talk about, you brought up a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and then I want to talk about uh, the the guy that you opened for, a little bit about his music because I know him pretty well. But I want to get into the song itself. The song you just released is called "Forget Me," and you recorded that with Christy Huff.
I did, yeah. So I'm the sole songwriter on the song. And Christy has been a friend of mine for a long time. I think the first time I met her was like a couple years ago, back at the Mesa Music Festival. We got booked to play the Mesa Music Festival out in Arizona, and I
Hmm.
had been a fan for hers for a while, and we connected out there. And with the song, I felt like I needed this like female dynamic to it to kind of like solidify the story of what I was trying to tell with that song. And I mean, she's a super sweet person. And
Right.
I had reached out to her and was like, "Hey, like, would you like to like come in and sing on this song with me?" And yeah, man, we made it happen, and it's. I mean, I really believe in it. I feel like I'm a really humble person, so I don't like to like think too much of anything. But I'm really proud of the song, and I think we got a lot of traction that we're going to be gaining moving forward with it.
Right. Well, let's share it real quick so folks can hear it. The song's called "Forget Me," and it is Chris Canyon along with Christy Huff. And it's on Before Nashville, which is being brought to you by Go Go Tuners. If you're looking for a great tuner, go check them out. The go-to tuner, professional amateur musicians alike. That patented green you're in, red you're out technology. Great, easy to see on stage when you're up there trying to tune a guitar. And as Chris can attest to, sometimes that's not real easy when the sun's beating down and the glare's just right. It's kind of hard to see, but this green you're in, red you're out screen that they have is amazing. So be sure to go check them out, gogotuners.com. Here's Chris Canyon along with Christy Huff. This is called Forget Me on Before Nashville.
Well, the days keep going and the years keep passing me by. Another bite to my lips, I can taste your kiss inside. Feel like pausing in my veins, got me feeling like I can die. If I can lose myself, for sure we should be tonight. Instead of sitting around with more coming down on loving you, what I do. Falling in love wasn't good enough, now I'm stuck here drinking the thought of you. Cause my heart's on fire, thinking maybe someday you'll miss me. Just forget me. Just forget me.
Strong enough, long enough, you're like a drug. Can't get enough, I'm sick of us. I've been over everything, I wish I never did. I'm tired of looking back, I can never quit. I'm so over this.
Sitting around with no one coming down, loving you, what I do. Falling in love wasn't good enough, now I'm stuck here drinking the thought of you. Cause my heart's on fire, thinking maybe someday you'll miss me. Just forget me.
I'm tired of holding on so tight, hoping that the world spins right.
Maybe we could fall back into life. Now I'm all alone tonight,
And it don't feel right.
and it don't feel right. Sitting around with no one coming down, loving you, what I do. Falling in love wasn't good enough, now I'm stuck here drinking the thought of you. Cause my heart's on fire, thinking maybe someday you'll miss me. Sitting around with no one coming down, loving you, what I'm gonna do. Falling in love wasn't good enough, now I'm stuck here drinking the thought of you. Cause my heart's on fire, thinking maybe someday you'll miss me. Feeling so dumb that I should never let you kiss me.
Just forget me.
Just forget me. Just forget me.
And that's Chris Canyon along with Christy Huff. It's called Forget Me. And that is Chris's song that Christy joined him on. Tell me a little backstory on the song itself.
Oh man, so that song came from a heartbreak I had a while ago. It's really interesting too, like the people that I play that song for, like again with songwriting, like you express an emotion in the amount of people that can relate with it. And I
Right.
wrote that song from a love that I had, from a heartbreak that I had, where you feel like you just wish the other person could forget you, because that's the better alternative than having to deal with like the pain of the heartbreak.
Right.
Yeah, and it was really like, kind of like when I took it into the studio with John, we were like, it's the best way to describe it. It's a up-tempo take on heartbreak.
Okay.
And the verse is like, well, the days keep going and the years keep passing me by. Another bottle to my lips, I can taste your kiss inside. You're like poison in my veins, got me feeling like I could die. If I could lose myself, I sure wish it'd be tonight. Like that just heartache and just
Mhm.
pain of like losing that person that you care about. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think we were able to capture it in a really like good way, and a lot of people have connected with it. It's been really a special song for me.
Now, was that a song that, because I mean, with the pandemic, things just kinda went haywire. It didn't seem like we could get anything to go right. But, were you and Chris able to record that in the same studio? Did you record it in different studios? And
Yeah, so we had gone in together prior to the pandemic. It was one of those songs that unfortunately, because of the pandemic and because of everything that was else that was going on in the world, took a little while to put together.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, we had separate days. Like I went in, recorded, we tracked, we did like idea down. Me and Christy had met like before the pandemic and played through the song and everything. And she was really stoked about it. And then she had gone into the studio, tracked her vocal, I had tracked my vocal, and then we went in and did like final cuts and things like that, and have gotten it to the point to where it's at now, or where we put it out. Yeah.
Right. So now there's also a video out for that, right?
Yeah, so we did a studio acoustic video.
Right.
Samantha Close, she's a country videographer, photographer, did the studio version. So we do have like a really cool, intimate kind of acoustic studio version that we did together that we put out. And we're working on a visualizer right now, and then the actual music video, as you would say, quote unquote, for the song should be coming out soon as well.
Right, right. And the acoustic video is really cool. I was watching it today, and I was like, man, I just like that stripped down feel. All the production.
I really do too. I really do too. I mean, as a guitar player and as a songwriter, I mean, most of the gigs that I played before I ever got to anywhere were me sitting at a bar with a guitar, and so
Right.
it's always been endearing to my heart. Yeah.
And I've always said, you can find out a true musician, a true singer, a true artist when they are stripped down.
Yeah.
Because with technology today, I mean, they could make me sound good, and trust me, that would just about burn up any equipment that you have. So, because I don't sing, but it's like somebody goes, and I'm not dissing against technology because it is good. It does help. It adds a little bit of a punch to some things, but when you start slapping a ton of auto tune on something or something like that, it's like no.
It changes it, yeah. And that
And
was the thing that was cool about that is literally like if you watch the acoustic video,
mhm,
like when John tracked us, it was one mic for me, a
right,
direct input for the acoustic guitar, and a mic for Christy.
right.
That was it. There was nothing else done to it. That is like the most honest take of the song that you could get.
Oh yeah, and that's what I liked about it because I thought, man, it was just really really interesting. I mean, and it wasn't even, the best I could tell. I'm kind of a gear geek, so sometimes I'll kind of geek out on this kind of stuff and I'll say something, but I didn't even notice that the mics were like high dollar expensive mics. I mean, it's just a good
And
quality.
they really weren't. I think we recorded using like an SM7B and some variation of the AK mic, and it went straight direct input into an Apollo interface. Um, and that was the thing that was cool about it too. And like when we were there, because we were doing a photo shoot that same day,
Uh-huh.
and it was at the end of the photo shoot, we're like, hey, like like we got a little bit of time left, like let's try to track this acoustic video. And so it wasn't even, like traditionally where you're going to a studio and you have this plan where you're going to be like running a Neumann
Right.
into like this special interface, which is going to then go through this compressor or anything like that. It was literally like, okay, cool. Let's just like hook some mics up, throw some stuff on here and see what we can get.
Right.
And it ended up turning out great. And I mean, Christy's phenomenal, like just on her own. And And just the fact that we were able to capture that in that, like, that was a one take, one shot kind of deal that we then ended up, Yeva Georges,
Uh-huh.
is who did the videography on that. And I mean, most of that we shot on, I think Sam's like DSLR and an iPhone, man.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then, another artist that we work on with the label Yelpy, he does a lot of, like, cinematography and editing and stuff. And so he threw like all the clips that we had into like a little edit with that sound file that we recorded. It's like bare bones. It was really bare, just like super bare bones, minimal, like anything. And that's what we try to do, you know, is just is capture that, you know. I think if you need to add all these other things to it, and again, like you were saying, that's not to say that like it doesn't make for good music,
Right.
but I think when you can capture an emotion, can capture a feeling, can capture a sound, like stripped down to the bare bones, and it can translate in such a way that people can connect with that, that's what I shoot for anyways.
Yeah, that's music. I mean, that's what it boils down to. You know, it's not often that you hear, unfortunately, a lot of that. You know, if somebody does a like a strip down, if somebody gets, and I'll bring this, you know, like in an Eric Church situation, you know, he's in Pennsylvania, his band has to cancel because of COVID, so he does 2 nights, just him and his guitar
Yeah,
and a couple
and
of
I'm sure he brought it.
yeah, he had Cam one night, Morgan Wallen the next night. And it sounds just as good that way as if he gone into a studio and done it. You
Yep.
know, minus the drums and the fills, you know, and the the other guitars and the way that they just reverb it and beef everything up, but it sounded just as good. And that is a great place to be when your music can sound that way. You know, you
That's
don't.
what artistry is, man. That's what, you know, growing up and listening to, I mean, like, you can look at, like, you know, classic recordings of like Jim Croce or like James Taylor, and it was literally them sitting on a stage with their guitar and they could captivate an audience.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've always strived for is that, like, how can I become as good as I possibly can in cultivating a message and translating that message to others in such a way that I could literally sit there with just me and my guitar and perform in that kind of way. It's a beautiful thing. And I mean, in a lot of ways, I think I've gotten there, and in a lot of other ways, like, I have miles to go, you know?
Right. But it's always, I mean, when you can reach that point and you have that point to as a goal, and you can reach that point or get, you know, to a certain aspect of that point, then it's got to make you feel good, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so what does the future hold for you right now? I mean, as far as the next 6 months, you talked about hopefully getting the album put out and
Yeah, so we're working on a lot of new music. You know, working on getting back out there. You know, prior to the pandemic, we had a lot of stuff that was lined up
Mhm.
as far as shows and things like that we were supposed to play. We were working on some tour stuff that we were supposed to be doing, and that kind of shut it all down. And so for me, at this point, I would like to say, you know, is really just about putting out a lot of music. I've been, super fortunate, you know, really through the pandemic. I grew my Instagram following a lot. And I mean, in retrospect to, you know, a lot of numbers that maybe other artists are getting, like, I just posted like a little video clip today, and last time I checked, it almost had like 20,000 views on Instagram, which for me was like crazy, because I remember like the day when I get like 60 views and I was like stoked, you know?
Right. It's like, yeah.
And and so for me, it's just like connecting with the people that support my music, and the fact that we're all, you know, people existing here. And I try to ask myself, like, how is the music that I'm putting out going to relate to people in a way that, you know, they're able to connect to. And so for me especially, you know, I'm just really trying to put out content for people and trying to keep the people who've supported me along the way engaged in what I'm doing, as well as like my professional goals. Like, like I was saying, I'm a registered nurse. I'm really passionate about what I do. And, I'm working on picking up maybe a travel contract here
Okay.
and, continuing what I do, man. And, through that, I've seen that, life is short,
Yeah,
and you really have to appreciate the moments you have while you have them with the people that you have them with.
absolutely.
And, for me, that doesn't fall short in any regard. And so I'm just fortunate enough to be able to continue doing what I love, because at the end of the day, like, whether anything happened with music or not, and I'm so very fortunate, like, I don't say this like I'm so very fortunate that I've been able to have the experiences that I've had musically, because I know lots of people who are amazing at what they do that haven't even like scratched the surface of the things that I've been able to do, for instance. And so that doesn't fall lightly on me. And also with that, like, giving back, and one of the things that's been great about music for me is I've done a lot of like, I do like a Christmas event every year for the Loma Linda University Children's Hospital here in California. Like, I went to Loma Linda University for nursing school, and so
Okay.
I try to give back to them, and I try to use music in a way that like I can give to others, because I feel like the more you give back, the more you receive.
Right.
And it's not from a selfish place that you do that, but it's from like an endearing place of like understanding that music is this beautiful thing that connects people together, and that through it we can connect to one another and like all grow together, man. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Speaking of connections, the best way for folks to connect to you. I mean, we've got the website there on the bottom, but you're pretty much all over social media from what I've seen.
Yeah, you can find me on like Facebook, Instagram, Apple Music, Spotify, I mean, anywhere you get your music, we're pretty much linked up on there. So, any support always, I really appreciate it.
Right, absolutely, and that's one of the big things, and I'm going to reiterate this to those that are watching. We want to make sure that if you're liking these artists, then support them. Like Chris said earlier, go spend that $1.29 or 99 cents or whatever it is to download the song. The album comes out, to spend the 9.99 to get it. Because that's pretty much the going price on most of them. But show them that you support them, because the artists don't get a whole lot out of it, but every little bit helps. And whether you have a um, something else that you're able to do, whether it be due to the pandemic or whatever, it's still always it kind of gives that little bit of validation to them as well, to make them feel like somebody would spend money on hearing their music.
Absolutely.
So we definitely want to encourage everybody to go out and do that as well. Um, we talked a little bit about shows, and I was going to bring this up, and I didn't do it earlier, so I'm going to do it real quick. But you had been out with, had opened up for Jacob Bryant. Jacob's a real good friend of mine. He and his manager Jeff are
Oh, cool.
friends of
Cool.
mine. And as a
Yeah,
matter of
Jeff
fact,
and Jacob are good people, man.
yeah, Jeff. We just talked Friday, and we got another talk coming up on Wednesday. I think we talk pretty regularly. And Jacob, I haven't got to talk with in a while, but he's been, since things are kind of opening back up a little bit for him, then he's getting back out on the road, which is always great for any artist. I mean, that's kind of where you want to be, in front of your fans and making new fans.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line. So sorry, I keep hitting that mic stand. It's like right in the way. I've got to get another one that doesn't have the springs that rattle. But any other shows? I mean, are your shows primarily? You talked about being out in Boston, I think it was, and in Mesa. Are a lot of your shows kind of everywhere? Do you kind of centralize around California?
Yeah, so I play a lot of shows here in Southern California. I play shows in Northern California. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where like the opportunity comes where it comes.
Right.
and now that the pandemic is kind of like getting to a place, and I mean, even with a lot of places, and again, too, like that's the thing is like it's business, you know. So if I'm a restaurant and I'm going to book an artist, you know, how much turnout is going to return to X amount of revenue, things like that. Those are all aspects of what it means to be part of the music.
Right.
And as much as like it's great to say like we love the music, there's other things that kind of coincide with that. And
Right.
I think it's great that we've finally been able to get to a place. And, you know, California, especially as far as like restrictions with COVID and things like that, has been a little bit different than some of the other states. So it's good to see that we're finally getting to a point where, you know, people are starting to book, restaurants are starting to have people come back out.
Right.
But I've been really fortunate to work with Kim Patterson over at 313 Management.
Hmm.
And I mean, I mean, this opportunity here, you know, where I'm sitting here talking with you was through Kimberly.
Right.
And you know, she's amazing at what she does. She supports a lot of great artists. I know you said you've talked with Kylie Trout before. You know, Kylie's super awesome. Um, and it's just really about, you know, supporting each other in those aspects. But yeah, I mean, I've been super blessed to be able to go to Boston, to be able to go to Texas, to be able to go to all these different places and play music. And I know with Jacob in particular, you know, like some of the things I did with Jacob, we did a thing here in Hesperia. Actually, it was called Country for a Cause,
Uh-huh.
where we were, you know, raising some money for a charitable event through this business called Desert Barn Brewery.
Okay.
You know, Josh and Sarah, and we brought, you know, Jacob out, and it was a whole thing. And I mean, Jacob, his whole crew, all those guys, such great people. And
Yeah.
that, you know, really drives home the surround yourself with good people, operate with good people, work with good people, and positive things happen because of it, man. It's you know, it's great. And shows are awesome. I mean, like shows are shows is the payoff, I like to say, for all the hard work you put in. You know, you sit around for 60, 70 hours putting a set list together, practicing it, running it through, making sure that everything's dialed in order to play that, you know, one set that you get at whatever bar you play at. And it's true though, you know, it's one component of it's where, you know, I remember watching this like interview with John Mayer. John Mayer's a big inspiration of mine because he's a phenomenal songwriter, phenomenal guitar player. And something he said was, when you play a show, it's the payoff of all the hard work you put in to get to that show.
Right. I think
And that's really what it is.
the reason I kind of chuckled there was because it's so true when you say 60, 70 hours to do that one set that you're going to do. People don't realize how long it takes to
No, they
prepare,
don't.
or, you know, you may only have a 45-minute set or a 50-minute set, you know, but you have to put so much time into it because you want uh, a lot of musicians, and I'm going to put myself in this because I'm this way a lot of times too. We're perfectionists and overachievers,
Yeah,
and we have to make sure that every little aspect is spot on. You know, if you're having a hard time playing the guitar because there's one note you just can't hit for whatever reason, you will work yourself to death until you can hit that note before a 45-minute set, where most people
absolutely.
blow it off, but you yourself know that you want to be the very best you can be. And so people don't understand how, I don't think a lot of people understand how long it goes into preparing for that. You know, I work with an artist, and he did he opened for Muscadine Bloodline the end of July and did like
Oh, nice.
a 60-minute. We were able to get him an hour. But I mean, just the time he put into that, and
It's an amazing amount of work.
it is. It's a lot of work, and it's hard enough to do it if that is the only thing you're doing. But then you add, like, you know, being an RN, you don't have, you know, I don't know. I have two of my kids are in the medical field. One's a surgical tech, and one is finishing, or he's in his second semester, I think, of to be a nurse practitioner. He's been
Oh, that's awesome.
an RN and an OR for a while. Um, but, you know, like on call, I mean, you know, they get on
Yeah.
call call. Our daughter was on call Sunday and got called in at 8:30 in the morning, to go in and had to work with the orthopedic because she was on the orthopedic surgical team, and she had to go in and do something with that. And you may have that, and yet you've got something else already planned, and then that comes into play. And so when that throws it off, you got all this time that you can do that, but then you throw that on top of it, and it makes it harder, but you still do it. I mean, you still go through and you still put that time in, and still when that 45-minute set comes around, you're kicking butt and taking names because you put the time into it.
Yeah, and you give your all to it because you
Yeah.
understand how fleeting it is, and just the opportunity that you have. I mean, there's been plenty of times where, like, I worked a 14, 15-hour shift and then came home and literally sat here in the studio that I'm broadcasting with you with right now for another 4 or 5 hours, just trying to get down a guitar lick or get down a guitar part for whatever song we were trying to do, to then sleep for like 2 or 3 hours to go back to work again.
Right.
And the thing that I was, you make time for what's important to you.
Exactly. And so it's always, that's why I encourage people. That's why I encourage you to go out and support these artists, because, they put a lot of time into this. It's not just pick up a guitar one day and you're on the radio the next. It doesn't happen that way.
I wish it did.
Yeah. If it did, unfortunately, there'd probably be a whole lot more artists out there.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
say unfortunately, but I mean, there's a lot out there now, but I mean, it would make it easier for some, because some people just get tired of the grind and they just have to say, I can't do it anymore, which is, kind of a bummer, because there's so many artists that I've heard that I've really enjoyed, and then it just got to be the best of them. And they're just like, I'm going to move on to something else.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really unfortunate, and that's what I was saying, like with the whole pandemic and everything. A lot of artists that I know that are phenomenal artists just couldn't substantiate being an artist anymore, because at the end of the day, like, we all have the same struggles, man. We got to
right,
pay our electric bill, we got to pay our gas bill, we got to pay rent.
right,
And if you can't book anywhere and get paid, I mean, it's not like these shows are paying like amazing. Like, for
right,
anyone that thinks that like being an artist is this like amazing lucrative thing, like it's not. Even
right,
if you're like a big artist, like I know my buddy Tyler, like even on this tour that he's on right now, I'm sure to like some degree is like struggling to quantify like ticket sales with costs of like expenditures and everything's like that.
right.
And it really is, it's a hard thing to be a musician, especially in today's day and age, especially as an independent musician and as somebody who's trying to break the scene. And I mean, like, today I went to this little coffee place by my house and spent like, I don't know, like $8 or $9 on a cup of coffee and a muffin.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like that same like $8 or $9 that you spent on a cup of coffee, like, if you could just support people that you believe in that same way,
Right.
it really makes the difference, man. And
Yeah.
that's been the big downfall of the music industry. I mean, you ask anyone who's been in it for a long time, like digital downloads and all these things where you can just like there was this like MP3 to like YouTube converter where you could just like snag somebody's YouTube video and convert it into an MP3.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's cool. Like, yeah, you're supporting them and that you're listening to their song, but I mean, what do you spend $5 on in a week? You know what I mean? Like, if you even spent 99 cents just supporting an artist that you believe in,
Yeah.
it does make a difference. It really does. And that's
It
why a lot of artists have had to, get to the point, especially with the the way the like legislature and stuff has worked as far as streaming and stuff like that goes. Most artists in today's day like make their money from touring. And if you're
Right.
not buying concert tickets, you're not going out and supporting the people that you believe in. I mean, it's only a matter of time till, like you said, they're not going to be around anymore making music,
Right.
because they have the same struggle that you do. They have to pay their electric bill, they have to pay their rent, they have to pay all these things, and if they can't generate revenue to like substantiate being able to play music, then they have to find something else to do, unfortunately.
Yeah. You know, the music is fun, but if the music goes away, unfortunately, the bills don't. So you still got to do it.
That's
Because
why
you
they
don't.
call it the music business, man.
Right, exactly. And so Chris, I mean, thanks. I've enjoyed having you on tonight. It's been great talking to you, getting to know you, and can't wait to hear more stuff from you. And I hope our viewers out there tonight have really had a good time, and those that'll be listening, and hope that they've really enjoyed it as well. And as always, and I tell everybody this, go to Chris's website, check it out, check out the music, go and download it, support him by. I mean, I always encourage to support the artist either by music or merch. I mean, those are the two biggest things. If they
And
come to
I
you,
appreciate that. And I think the biggest way, if I were to tell anyone how they could support me,
Mhm.
is by one, listening to my music, and most importantly, by sharing it with people that they know.
Yes,
That's the biggest thing, is it's developing the platform, developing the base of people who listen to your music. And if you like what I do, you know, tell your friends about it, tell your family about it. And if all it is, a follow on Instagram, a like on a video or whatever, like, that means the world to me, because in the day and age that we live in, the amount of likes you get, the amount of views you get, and all those things are things that you can take to a record label, that you can take to a partner, that you can take to anybody who's investing in your brand,
right.
and make things happen from it. Absolutely.
Exactly. So make sure to do that, to share it. You can share the interview tonight. You're more than welcome to do that. Just click the share button and just share that with your friends as well. But Chris, we're going to keep up with you. We're going to see how things keep going. And thanks for coming on tonight, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly a great honor to be to a place in my musical career that I have even people that are interested in hearing what I have to say, and that doesn't fall on deaf ears. It really means so much to me. I'm so very grateful. Thank you so very much.
You're absolutely welcome. And don't forget, Thursday night, we'll be back with another artist. I think I don't have my calendar in here, so I can't tell you who it is. I can usually do that, but my calendar is turned up missing. I think one of the cats, my podcasts, have grabbed it. That's what I call them. So somebody's made off with the calendar. But anyway, check in Thursday night. We'll have some more. And until then, y'all have a blessed night. We'll talk to you later.
Take care.